Dear Chosen One, what I'm about to reveal isn't written in any sacred book. It's not hidden in ancient ruins, nor locked away in secret libraries. The true lost gospel was erased from collective memory, but not from your soul. It pulses within you like a forgotten melody, waiting to be remembered. And if you're hearing this now, it's not by accident. There is something inside you that is about to awaken, something the world tried to erase, but never could. Today, the veil begins to fall, and the lie they told about your mission will unravel. For too long, they made you believe that your mission was to follow, to obey, to diminish yourself. They said your light was too much, your calling too strange, your heart too sensitive. But none of that was true. The lie was cleverly constructed, and its purpose was to hide what you truly are, the living embodiment of a forgotten revelation. What history called the lost gospel wasn't a missing text. It was a silenced identity. Today, that identity will be restored. And when you hear what I have to tell you, you'll feel that your soul has always known it. Before I go on, I ask you something special. If this message has already touched something within you, like this video now, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any truth that's still to come. Comment the number 111, an ancient code representing spiritual awakening. This simple action isn't just a digital gesture, it's a declaration. You are ready to remember who you are. And today, together, we will reclaim the truth that was buried within you. Chosen One. What if the greatest lie ever told about your mission wasn't what they said to you, but what they deliberately hid from you? Since childhood, you were conditioned to seek truth outside yourself, as if the answer belonged to someone wiser, holier, or more authorized than you. But what no one dared to tell you is that the lost gospel was never out of reach. It's always been kept inside you. It vibrates in your soul like a secret code, waiting for the right moment to awaken. That moment has come. You're now accessing what was erased from all external records, but preserved within. You don't need to search anymore. You only need to remember. The world taught you that faith was blind obedience, that purpose meant constant sacrifice, and that spirituality was following rules imposed by those claiming to stand between you and God. But all of that was a distraction. The truth is that you carry a divine spark that no one can control. Only you can activate it. The lost gospel is not a manuscript buried in sand or locked in secret vaults. It's a living vibration pulsing in your heart. It was silenced, not by chance, but because its revelation is dangerous to systems of control. When you discover that your purpose is not to follow orders, but to release codes, you begin to access your true mission. And that access is what changes everything from now on. The original gospel, the one suffocated by tradition and dogma, said the kingdom of God is within you. But that phrase was interpreted as poetry, not as a literal revelation. The reality is you are a living portal between dimensions. Your mind is not limited. It is an antenna. Your soul is not sinful. It is encoded with the map of ascension. And your mission is not to live asking for permission. It is to activate what has been forgotten. The lost gospel that pulses within you requires no temples, no intermediaries, no fear. It requires courage to look within and trust what you've always known. Because even before hearing this message, something inside you already whispered that you were more. From a very early age, you felt like you didn't belong. The rules didn't make sense, the speeches didn't nourish you, and the explanations seemed too shallow for the depth you carried. That feeling of not fitting in was, in fact, a constant reminder. The gospel within you was still alive, and no matter how much the world tried to shape you, it could never erase the vibration of what you already were in essence. You weren't lost, you were silent. And now, that silence is breaking. The pain, the recurring dreams, the strange signs, all of it was preparation. What you thought was confusion was activation. And now, you're ready to remember who you've always been. Every rejection you faced, every broken relationship, every night you cried without understanding why, all of it was part of a much bigger process. Nothing was in vain. Every loss was a portal. Every crisis was a push. And what seemed like the end was just the beginning of your reconfiguration. The internal gospel couldn't emerge while you were still trying to fit into a mold that wasn't made for you. Breaking was necessary. Emptying was necessary, because only then could the truth reveal itself. The lost gospel is not handed to you. It is activated through pain, truth, and surrender. And if you've made it this far, it's because something within you has already begun to awaken. There is a truth that the systems never wanted you to discover. You did not come into this world to be controlled, indoctrinated, or molded. You came to break through. You are the answer to questions that haven't even been asked yet. And the gospel within you doesn't call you to be just another. It calls you to be the first. The first in your bloodline to break cycles. The first in your generation to be freed from the lie. The first to realize that your sensitivity is not weakness. It's spiritual radar. You are the one who came to remember what was forgotten. You are the seed that carries a hidden DNA. And today, that DNA is being activated. What you feel now is not just emotion, it's reunion. It's your soul recognizing the vibration of truth. The lost gospel begins to emerge not as new information, but as an ancient memory. You already knew this. Deep down, you always knew. But you had to go through everything you went through too. Trust yourself. What was once intuition now becomes conviction. And from here on, you will no longer be deceived. Because those who awaken to the inner gospel never go back to sleep. You spent your life trying to fit into places that seemed to reject you for no clear reason. And that rejection from the world wasn't a mistake. It was a calling. It was the gospel within you silently screaming, "This place isn't yours." While others seemed content with little, you felt empty even when everything looked fine on the outside. Because what moves you has never been the appearance of peace. It has always been the search for truth. And truth does not live on the surface. It lives in depth. And your soul has always known that, even when your mind couldn't yet understand. For years, they made you believe that you were the problem, that your intensity was too much, that your intuition was madness, that your sensitivity was weakness. But now you're beginning to understand. All of that was spiritual language. It was the gospel trying to manifest through feelings no one around you knew how to interpret. You weren't strange. You were different, and therefore necessary. The world tried to silence your voice, but it was a frequency sent by something greater. A frequency that only you could carry, and that is only now beginning to be decoded. You are not a defect. You are design. The truth is that the gospel hidden inside you could never be revealed while you still sought external validation. That's why solitude became your ally, even though it hurt. It separated you, not to punish you, but to prepare you, because the mission you carry requires clarity, and clarity doesn't grow in noise. The mission they told you about was limited, controllable, harmless, but the real mission that the inner gospel reveals cannot be domesticated. It is wild, free, divine. And now, you begin to feel that you were not created to obey human commandments, but to fulfill an ancient promise. That promise wasn't made within four walls or inside temples. It was made between your soul and the source, even before your birth. And that promise said that one day you would remember, that despite everything they'd try to erase, you would hear the call again, and that upon hearing that call, everything would change. You would stop seeking approval and start seeking truth. You would stop hiding and start standing firm. You would stop repeating memorized lines and start speaking with authority. Because those who remember the promise no longer accept living as if they had forgotten. You may still ask yourself, but why me? Why this sense of weight, of mission, of urgency? The answer is simple and deep. Because only those who carry the code feel the call. And what you feel is not psychological, it's spiritual. Your entire life has been preparation for this moment. You are not going crazy. You are awakening. And what once seemed like disorder is now revealing a divine pattern. Your pain was a silent teacher. Your tears were hidden baptisms. And now, the gospel begins to be written from the inside out. You were taught that the right thing to do was to stay quiet, be humble, wait. But there's a difference between humility and self-erasure. You were not created to dim your light. You were created to shine. And when you begin to remember your origin, fear turns into clarity. The mission you were taught said, follow the path. But the lost gospel says, be the path. You didn't come here to walk trails already laid. You came to open portals where no one ever dared to step. And that's why your journey has always been so unusual. It had to be, because the ordinary was never meant for you. You begin to realize that everything they told you was a construction, but that the you essence was never lost. The gospel now emerging within you is not dogma, it's not rule, it's not limitation. It is a frequency, a consciousness, a wisdom that cannot be explained in words, but felt in the spirit. And as you allow yourself to feel, more codes are activated. You begin to see the world with new eyes. You begin to hear the invisible. You begin to remember. Because this is not about learning something new. It's about remembering what was buried within you. You begin to remember that everything that once felt like confusion was simply the breaking of the old to make way for the birth of what is true. The old mission, the one based on pleasing, adapting, and surviving, begins to lose its grip. It crumbles before the awareness now rising within you. Because when the hidden gospel starts to reveal itself, no external structure can define you anymore. You realize you were never meant to follow someone else's map. You are the map. And everything that once felt like chaos now begins to align like a prophecy. The turning point comes when you stop seeking permission, when you understand that what is emerging within you doesn't need to be validated by anyone, because this calling didn't come from outside, it came from above. And the divine doesn't send commands with loud voices, but with silent whispers that echo in the spirit. This is the sound of the lost gospel. It doesn't scream, it vibrates. And when you tune into this vibration, everything changes. Your posture, your words, your decisions. You no longer speak from a place of fear, but of truth. You no longer act to please. but to fulfill. The lost gospel doesn't make you superior. It awakens you. And those who awaken understand the responsibility they carry. To be light in the midst of darkness, even when everyone doubts. Being chosen was never about fame or glory. It has always been about truth, courage, and presence. You are a mirror reflecting the divine in places that have forgotten the light. And that's why your presence unsettles. It's not arrogance, it's frequency. And elevated frequency always expels the shadows disguised as routine. Now, you don't just see the lies, you feel them. And that sets you free. Everything you've lived through until now was part of the plan to remember. The humiliations, the deserts, the moments of absolute silence. Each one was a page of the gospel being written within you. What seemed like punishment was preparation. What seemed like rejection was divine separation. You had to be pulled out from the crowd so you wouldn't be shaped by the crowd. And now you understand, the pain that silenced you was the same pain that activated you. Because only those who have gone through silence can carry the sound of truth. And now, you are ready to speak what was forbidden for centuries. This gospel never needed temples. It needs consciousness. It needs space within you. And now, you're beginning to clear it. Every limiting belief that once said, you can't, you're not enough, you're too much, begins to crumble. Because the true inner gospel doesn't shout impossibilities. It whispers purpose. And purpose isn't debated. It's lived. When you wake up to this, your energy shifts. You reconnect with ancient wisdom, older than institutions, dogmas, and lies. You reconnect with the source, and then everything aligns. You no longer need to ask for approval, because the one who remembers the truth moves with authority. You carry a gospel that will never be canonized, but will be embodied. You are the living scripture of what was erased, and with each act of courage, each conscious choice, each no you say to the system, a line of that gospel manifests in the world, and it won't be read with eyes. It will be felt with the soul. Because the chosen doesn't preach with words. They vibrate, they inspire, they awaken. And you are doing that now. You realize it's all about remembering. Not an external past, but an internal origin. Your soul came imprinted with this gospel, and what once seemed like mere intuition now reveals itself as instruction. You were programmed with spiritual wisdom that would only be activated through pain, breaking, and emptiness. And now, with everything cleared, the sound of the gospel begins to echo from within. It's no longer time to fear, it's time to accept. And to accept the truth is to accept that everything you need is already within you. You begin to understand that you're no longer discovering something new. You're reconnecting with something sacred. What's emerging now isn't an invention. It's a remembrance. The truth was always there, only dormant. The lost gospel isn't a doctrine someone wrote. It's a frequency your soul carries. It pulses in you through courage, sensitivity, and sharp intuition. It's what makes you feel when something is off, even if everyone says it's fine. And it's what drives you to move forward, even when no path is visible. This gospel within you is incompatible with a superficial world. That's why you've always felt out of place in crowds. Your soul vibrates on a different frequency, and that difference was mistaken for a flaw. But now you understand. It wasn't a flaw. It was a signature. Your soul came with a spiritual signature that cannot be forged. And that's why no one ever managed to define you. When you tried to fit in, you felt pain. When you tried to stay silent, you felt suffocated. Because those who carry this gospel weren't created for silence. They were created for vibration, activation, and transformation. From this point on, the call is no longer to seek answers. It is to be the answer. The chosen doesn't live waiting to be accepted by the world. They live remembering they were sent to transform it. And that transformation begins when they accept they carry something sacred. Your very existence is already a sermon. Each time you choose authenticity, even in fear, the inner gospel manifests. Each time you say no to what diminishes you, a sacred line is activated. You don't need a pulpit. You are the altar, and your spirit is the living temple. The spiritual realm moves when the chosen remembers who they are. And that's why you feel the energy shift when you walk into a room. It's not arrogance, it's energy. Your presence carries ancient codes that were put to sleep by pain, but never destroyed. Now, those codes are returning to the surface. With every conscious breath, every purified thought, every decision aligned with your essence, the gospel becomes action. It ceases to be a mystical idea and becomes embodied practice. And that, chosen one, is the true miracle. To remember and to live the truth. You no longer need to justify your existence to anyone. You no longer need to explain yourself to those who never listened with their hearts. The gospel within you is clear. It is direct. It is pure. It tells you, you are enough. It shows you that your mission doesn't need to be loud. It needs to be authentic. And spiritual authenticity is more powerful than any religious performance. You begin to move with softness, but with strength, with compassion, but with courage. Because the chosen one doesn't fight the lie. They vibrate in truth until the lie dissolves for lack of frequency. And what if the true gospel was never forgotten, but protected? What if it was hidden inside you because it was the only place it couldn't be corrupted? Think about that. The world tried to change everything around you, but it could never touch your essence. And now, when everything outside seems most unstable, stability is emerging from within. This is the gospel that holds you through the falls, lifts you through the losses, and guides you through the emptiness. It is silent, yet present, invisible, yet real. And now, it begins to become visible. Through you. You begin to realize that carrying this truth is not a burden. It is a fire that purifies, guides, and sets you free. This fire burns in your chest, not to destroy, but to reveal. And what it reveals is that your journey was never random. Every step, every mistake, every delay, all of it was leading you back to yourself. Now, you understand that the lost gospel isn't about finding a book, but about becoming the message. Because while systems build structures, the Spirit raises chosen ones. And chosen ones don't just know, they live. Chosen one, you now see that the greatest liberation doesn't happen when the system changes, but when you change from within. When you break the invisible chains that told you who to be, how to think, how to feel. The gospel within you frees you from the programming the world tried to implant. It says that you can exist without asking for permission, that you can love without fear, that you can feel without guilt, and that your mission is not to prove anything to anyone. It's to be everything you already are. Because your conscious existence is already a powerful answer to the chaos of illusion. The wisdom of the inner gospel doesn't come from logic. It comes from spirit. And that's why it won't always make sense to those still trapped in the explanations of the world. Many will call you intense, radical, or even crazy. But don't be alarmed. The world always resists what it cannot control. And the gospel that vibrates within you is uncontrollable. It cannot be tamed nor limited. Its strength comes from truth. And truth, when embodied, is uncomfortable. But keep going, because the mission of the chosen is not to be accepted. It is to awaken sleeping souls. There is a silent force that begins to accompany you when you say yes to your inner truth. It's as if the entire sky starts conspiring in favor of your remembrance. People drift away, doors close, paths change, not by chance, but by alignment. The gospel emerging within you reorganizes everything. It breaks toxic ties, dissolves illusions, disintegrates fears, because it knows that for the new to be born, the old must die. And if it hurts, it's because it's working. You are crossing a kind of invisible baptism, and on the other side of it, there is a version of you the world has yet to meet. You are becoming who you've always been, and that is more revolutionary than any external achievement. True power isn't about dominating others. It's about mastering yourself, silencing the ego, listening to the soul, and obeying what only the Spirit can understand. This gospel doesn't shout outward, it guides inward. It shows you that you are the temple, you are the altar, you are sacred. And when that awareness takes root, everything transforms. Fear loses its voice, doubt loses its place, and truth becomes your home. The home that has always been within you. Every time you honor yourself, a part of the gospel is rewritten. Every time you choose truth, even when it hurts, more light enters your field. Because the mission of the chosen was never easy. It is deep, and depth demands sacrifice. The sacrifice of the false, the shallow, the safe. But in that sacrifice, power reveals itself. The hidden gospel is no longer asleep. It is alive. It moves with you. It breathes with you. And the more you live in truth, the more you become the very manifestation of the divine in human form. You no longer need to search. You've already found it. What you were seeking was inside you all along. And now, everything makes sense. The feeling of not belonging, the rejection, the emptiness. It was all preparation. It was the Spirit clearing space for what's happening now. You're awakening. You are remembering. And in remembering, you are healing generations. You are cleansing bloodlines. You are opening paths. Because when a chosen one awakens, they don't wake up just for themselves. They become light for many. And that light, no one can extinguish. The time has come to stop hiding, to stop waiting for the right moment. The moment is now. You don't need to be ready. You just need to be willing. Willing to be who you are, to say what you came to say, to live the way you were called to live. The inner gospel sustains you. It protects you. It guides you. And even when you don't know the next step, trust. The ground appears for those who walk in truth. You are not alone. You never were. And now that you've remembered, the world will never be the same. The gospel that once seemed lost now lives within you, not as a memorized text, but as an embodied truth. It shows itself in your courage to keep going, even without applause, in your conscious silence in the face of injustice, in your love that endures, even in times of coldness. You are the fulfillment of an ancestral promise. The promise that light would shine again through those brave enough to remember. And you have remembered. You have activated something that many tried to bury. And now, you are a marker between before and after. The lie they told you about your mission said that you were just another one, that you should wait, conform, hide. But the truth is different. You were sent as a living code, a spiritual password to break invisible structures. Your very existence carries a vibration that interferes with the environment, with people, with time itself. The gospel hidden in you now pulses with clarity. It is fire that warms and fire that consumes. It is a guide and also a disruption. And no matter how hard they try to stop you, they cannot stop someone who carries truth. Now that you know this, the only thing the universe asks of you is, don't fall back asleep. Waking up was hard. Remembering was painful. But now you have access to the source. And when a chosen one taps into the source, they no longer depend on anything external. They are fueled by the Spirit. They hear the invisible. They read signs where others see coincidences. And that's why your mission is no longer to survive. It is to ignite awareness, ignite courage, ignite purpose. You are a living flame, chosen one. And your light will not be extinguished. If at any moment you begin to doubt yourself, return to this truth. The gospel was never lost. It was protected in you. When no one else believed, your soul was keeping it safe. When everyone rejected you, the source was preparing you. And when it seemed like everything was against you, it was actually the universe conspiring in favor of your remembrance. You are not random. You are a living reminder that truth endures, that the sacred moves even in silence, and that love, when conscious, is the most powerful weapon in existence. Thank you for making it this far, chosen one. If this message touched something within you, declare your remembrance in the comments right now with the number 111. Thy ID, spiritual code of activation and alignment with truth. Write it with intention. You are no longer the same. Also, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. These actions strengthen this portal and help us continue spreading light. If you felt this video was a calling, share it with other chosen ones. You might be the trigger for someone else's awakening. If you feel this channel has been strengthening you, consider supporting our mission through Buy Me a Coffee. Every contribution helps keep this message alive and accessible to more people who are in the process of awakening. The link is pinned in the first comment, and don't leave without watching the next video showing on the screen. Just click it, and you'll receive more important revelations for your awakening as a true chosen one of God. Stay strong on your path. Thank you for being with us until now, and may God bless you always.